We're still looking at the 3D Effects dialog box. This time we're looking at the Textures tab. And when we look down, none of our icons are active. I'm going to insert a 3D object on the screen and see if that helps. All our icons are still inactive. In order to make these active, we need to come up to our fill area and make it a gradient, hatching, or bitmap. I'm going to make it a gradient. And I'm going to make the gradient rectangular, red and white. Now we see all our icons are active. The very first one at the top is type. We can make this black and white. Clicking this, we see in our preview area that it makes it black and white. And the default is color. Our second type of texture is mode. Here we've got only texture or texture and shading. The default is texture and shading. If we put it on only texture, it takes away the ambient light that we learned about in our previous tutorial. And that really takes away from the whole 3D image. So I'm going to turn that back on, but I'm going to brighten that up a little, going over to the Illumination tab and change from 60% to about 40%. And now I'm going back to my Textures tab. The projection X and Y. To see how this works, I'm going to insert another slide and add in a sphere and a cube. And I need to add in the fill area. I'm going to add a bitmap. And I'm going to make the bitmap my Frugal Computer Guy logo. I'm going to brighten that up just like we did the other one. And I'm going to take this down to 30. I want to copy that same format onto our sphere. So I'm going to click on our update, select the sphere, and assign it. Now I need to turn this off. And let's go back over to our Textures tab. We've got Projection X and Projection Y. And then 3 icons: Object Specific, Parallel, and Circular. The default is Object Specific. Object Specific takes our pattern or our bitmap and puts it as a best fit for that object. And we can see for our sphere, it looks pretty good. And for our cube, it looks pretty good there too. The next one is Parallel. And what Parallel does is it takes an image and then adjusts it to the center and makes a mirror image on the opposite side. Let's set these both to parallel. Clicking Assign, we see we have it on the one side. And when I move it to the other, we see the mirror image on the back. Now we also see the line from the wallet here going from one side to the other. And if we look on the top, we've got a red line where it hits the top going to the back as well. And our last one is Circular. And it looks like it's trying to fit our bitmap onto the cube in one big picture just wrapped around. Let's try it with the sphere. And here this looks similar to what we already had, not much of a difference. Let's try a different pattern on our cube. I've got this LibreOffice Draw pattern. Putting that on there, we can see that we have a single pattern wrapped all around our cube when we have our projection X and Y set to circular. So these work pretty well when we've got a sphere and a cube. What happens when we add a cylinder? Let's try the logo and see how that looks. And here it looks pretty crazy. It looks like it's on here 3 times and then again on the top, it's not really clear with the logo. Let's look at this on a new slide. I'm going to insert a rectangle, 2 by 3, and then I'm going to apply a bitmap of that LibreOffice draw picture so we can see exactly what we have to work with. I made it 2 inches by 3 inches, so this is full size, and it works out a little better than the logo because this goes to all the corners and gets all the edges, but yet we can still see the center and it has some writing on it. So I'm going to insert our cylinder that we were working with earlier. I want to angle it a little bit. And now I'm going to apply that bitmap. Okay, this is a little clearer than the logo. And looking in our preview window, I never turned off my update button. Now it's off. So it looks like it's on here 3 times. There's nothing in our projection X and Y to change that. So we'll need to come up to our area fill bucket. And looking at the defaults, it has this defaulted as a tile. I'm going to uncheck that, and AutoFit becomes checked. We're going to leave that on and click OK. Now this is looking a little better. We only have one image covering the entire object, and it looks like our X, or horizontally, it's looking good, but vertically, up and down, it's not fitting properly. So we're going to want to change the Y projection. So X is horizontal and Y is vertical. I'm going to try parallel and see how that works. And our preview looks good. Clicking assign, it brings it around and looks pretty good. Let's try the circular. That makes it look good as well. A little different, but it still looks good. So to get something to wrap around a cylinder, we're going to want to change our area to AutoFit. Another thing we can do is uncheck this AutoFit, and it's got original size. I don't want that. I want relative. Relatives is 100%, 100%, about the same as AutoFit. Let's make sure and take a look. Looks pretty much the same. Now what I'm going to do is go back in here and change the height from 100% and make this about 75. We can see in our preview that we're going to have a little space at the top and at the bottom, so it centers it nicely. Clicking OK. Here we see the line from the top, and when we angle it, it looks like there's no back side. From our previous tutorials, we know how to fix this. Go back over to our Geometry tab, and then turn on our double-sided normal. Going to angle this up a little more. That looks pretty good. Let's go back to our Textures tab. We have one more thing down here called filtering on-off. Now what the filter does, it's a little soft focus filter. It can remove some slight errors in the texture. We can try it, but I don't see too much of a change. Our last tab, Material, has got 5 favorite materials. We've got metal, gold, chrome, plastic, and wood. And I've made labels over on the side, and we're going to see how these look. For the first one, I'm going to add a sphere, and we're going to assign that metal. Looks pretty good. Let's add the label underneath. The next one is gold. So for that, I'm going to add a rectangle. Come over to our geometry, convert that to 3D, give it a little depth, maybe 1. Scale in the top to 80%. I'm trying to make this look like a bar, a gold bar. Maybe bring this down a little. And let's give it the gold material. And let's give that one its label. The next one's chrome. For chrome, I'm just going to make another sphere. Assign that chrome. Add the label. Now we're to plastic. For plastic, I'm going to add a torus. Let's give it the plastic finish. Maybe make it a little bigger. And our last one is wood. For wood, we're going to add another rectangle. Make it a 3D object. We'll give it a depth of 2.5. Let's give it the wood material. And if I want to sharpen up those corners, I'll come back to our geometry tab. And instead of having rounded edges at 10%, I'll make them 0. So that sharpens up those corners. And that is wood.